internally and various of their friends internally. YF is being accused of not being a real advocate, of being arrested or under investigation of cocaine possession, of being, and I think it's not that I'm trying to truncate, I think that that is the last page. Of course, okay, importantly here, there are some indicators of who YF are, but the important point is that, in my view, we have certainly more of the same in the context of executive statement here, and YF, whoever it might be, is fully aware of this, is obviously, well, I won't say fully involved, but certainly seems to be fully aware of this and the sensitivity, which certainly wouldn't tend to give support for the fact that this selection process is being done within the terms of MODAC.
Perhaps before we go to RMY08, your YLF04, you mentioned that YF knows who he is, but in paragraph 517 of your statement, you make specific reference as to who YF is. What is the basis of what you state in paragraph 517?
Okay, that's in the document that we're coming up to next. I think we probably deal with the affidavit.
Yes, that is at page 1944 of that bundle, same bundle we're dealing with.
It's an affidavit, and the deponent, if that's the correct term, is Carol Ann Jeffries, and she says, "I, the undersigned."
Who is Carol Jeffries?
No, I come to that in the document, because affidavits normally say who one is.
All right.
I, the undersigned Carol Ann Jeffries, do hereby make oath and declare I'm an adult female with her ID number, who present, who that at that time her employment, but she says who she is, and that is in the relevant period, for the period October 96 to November 98, which I think I've said in terms of the documents I've referred to is the relevant period. I was employed by British Aerospace, it's BAE South Africa, as a personal assistant and bookkeeper. Since November 98, I assisted the negotiating team from the United Kingdom and moved out of the main marketing office. And I left the employ of the group in August 2001, so she certainly seems to have been in the right place at the right time. She refers to other BAE directors in South Africa. I don't think it's relevant in terms of my evidence, except that the people, Niall Irving and Stuart McIntyre, who is involved in this.
I'm sorry. Advocate Sberg, we seem to be going back to where I thought we'll never go to. He's now starting to read letters from BAE, analyzing them, telling us what we mean. I'm not quite sure what is the purpose thereof. We do have the letters, he has referred to them. We can read them and understand them. We don't need Dr. Young to read that for us.
I had asked you earlier on to be mindful of the terms of the ruling when you refer to these documents.
You also asked me to identify who Carol Ann Jeffries was, and my response was particularly to answer that particular query. So it was done for in specific response.
Right. Again, being mindful of the ruling, I had asked you what the basis of what is set out in your paragraph 517 is, and you said is this document RMY 108. Where in RMY 108 do we find the basis for what you say in your paragraph 517?
Sorry, my paragraph what? 5?
17 of your statement.
Sorry, we are not there yet. we are at my previous point, 517, sorry, not 517, 516, where I'm referring to my RMY 108 document. We haven't got to 517 yet.
Again, dealing with your paragraph 516, we are now dealing with, you've referred to RMY 108, and I said to you, in responding to the question, please be mindful of the ruling, or the terms of the ruling, which was handed down day before yesterday, regarding the manner in which you deal with the document.
Okay, my understanding was that I was allowed to refer and to particular portions of it, and that's all I was trying to do. Anyway, there's only one more sentence that I want to refer to when I want to read out in this affidavit.
What paragraph does it appear on?
It's in the last page, above the affirmation of the oath. It starts with the words, "I furthermore."
Yes. This is to demonstrate who the young lady friend is that correct?
Not only to demonstrate who the young lady is, it is to demonstrate the other party in the transaction, being BAE, and the whole issue of residence and study in the United Kingdom. That's what it's about.
So that is the critical paragraph in this document?
Yes, other than, of course, identifying it's an affidavit and who the deponent is, which is what I was trying to do. Wanted to do that in the context of introducing the most important thing, which says, "I furthermore know that a certain family member of Stella Zichar, first name Portia, was sponsored by BAE to study in the UK." And the rest of the paragraph is important, but I won't read that out.
Dealing with the next paragraph of your statement, it is paragraph 517. And in that regard, you make reference to YLF 02 and YLF 05, which documents are our RMY 109 at page 1947 and our RMY 110 starting at page 1950. Again, Dr. Young, I shall remind you that in tendering your evidence, you must be mindful of the terms of the ruling.
I'm ever mindful of the terms of the ruling, but I have to tread a fine line between too much and too little, and I'm trying, at this stage, I think I'm erring on the side of too little, at least in respect of getting my evidence across properly and also keeping my own train of thought. But nevertheless, this is a document by it's a document entitled JMW's Thoughts for PW on Positioning and Relationships in South Africa. I think the whole thing is extremely important, but JMW is Jonathan Walton, who is another BAE employee based in South Africa, involved in the Hawk and the Gripen deal. And in this respect, I think the whole thing is extremely relevant, but I just wanted to refer to two paragraphs here on the second page, which succeeds the sentence that says it's both administered by Niels Peterson.
This would be on page 19, page 1948 for the record. What is the number of the paragraph you're referring to?
Paragraph 1 and 2. 1, 2, and 3.
Is that the one that has the heading top level political, pre-Hawk/Gripen. Is that the paragraph you're referring to?
I'm sorry, I am looking at unfortunately the indentation of that is quite poor, but underneath 7, maybe that's a correct place to start. Under 7, where it says, in the meantime, Steve Grigg. It's my third page, and I think if we're talking about halfway down the page.
I think it is page 2 of 3, our 1948. Paragraph 7 reads, in the meantime, Steve Grigg, now reporting to John Macbeth. Is that the passage referring to?
That's indeed correct, yes.
Yeah. What is the essence of that passage you want to refer to?
Okay. It's there are two reasons. The first one is to identify who YF is, young friend. The second, of course, if I do get the opportunity, as I've indicated in my witness statement, if possible, I could or would address some of the evidence that Whana Hlongwane gave to this commission not too long ago in December. But be that as it may, I think it's, if I may just refer to the following, that he refers in August in respect of 2003, only one senior political advisor. I think there's an emphasis on that, even in inverted commas. His name is Whana Hlongwane, with 2 advisor contracts, one in inverted commas marketing and one offset, both administered by Niels Peterson. In any case, we can go down to 2. But on JMW's arrival, Stuart McIntyre embarked on an extraordinary campaign to promote FH, clearly Whana Hlongwane, to JMW, so ridiculously strong that JMW was highly uncomfortable. SM, that Stuart McIntyre, was exceptionally close to FH and told JMW that he sought his counsel on practically everything, including even his own personal life. SM visited FH very regularly, but no one in the office was allowed to mention FH by name, hence our young friend, due to FH's security concerns. I think that is sufficient in respect of my contention that, independently of my own conclusions, is that BAE documentation refers to the person YF or young friend as Whana Hlongwane.
RMY 110 is, it seems to be the same document that is part of the series of documents in your RMY 108. 107, that is that.
Just inquire before you proceed. RMY 109, these are thoughts for PW on positioning and relationships in South Africa. Who is this JMW?
I'd actually say that. His name is Jonathan Walton, and he is a important member of the British Aerospace it's a negotiating team or the project team. That is fairly clear. Of course, I know that independently, but in terms of this own document, if we go down to the last page, page 3 of 3, we can. This was actually a digital document. I think that was seized and turned into paper. But nevertheless, we can have a look at what it says in the last page regarding document properties, entitled the same as the top page, Positioning and Relationships in South Africa. The author is John. and the last save by Jonathan Walton.
Thank you.
I had indicated to you just before you proceeded that the document YLF05, our RMY 110 at page 1950 is, I think, part of the document that you have already referred to, which deals with young lady friend at paragraph numbered 1 and security at paragraph numbered 2 on that page. Do you see that?
Yes, it seems to be redundant.
Now, regarding the allegations of corruption in respect of the jet trainer and the jet fighter aircraft, other than the documents you have referred to and what you've set out in your statement, is there anything else that you wish to supplement?
Not at this stage. Depending on how things go, there's certainly more relevant stuff. And unfortunately, I gave an oath to tell the whole truth.
For just another interruption here, I see the title of this document. The thoughts are for PW 109. Now, who is PW?
Sorry, just let me open my document.
O2.
I have to be honest, is I don't really know that. I haven't applied my mind to that, so I think the honest answer is I have to say I don't know.
Thank you.
Should you apply or have an opportunity to apply your mind after the adjournment, is that something you can establish?
If it's relevant, if it's important, I could certainly give my view, apply my mind to it. As far as I remember, PricewaterhouseCoopers was an auditor of British Aerospace, at least South Africa, and this could well be Pricewaterhouse.
Dr. Young, I think you probably stick to your first answer. You don't know. Please don't speculate. If you don't know, you don't know. You said you don't know. Now you start trying to give an answer to a question that you initially said that you don't know. If you don't know, you don't know. Please do not speculate.
That brings us to your discussion of the Sheikh Swan interference in helicopter decisions. Is this something you wish to discuss at this point?
Yes, this is extremely short, sharp and sweet by comparison, but it's just to indicate with reference to the terms of reference to the Commission, I think the word impropriety is used, and of course the big focus has been on the large programs, the military aircraft, the corvette and the submarine so far, but it's something that is indicated in at least the draft JRT report, and it also doesn't seem to be any reason why it should not be carried through. So this is referred to in two contexts. One, that if it is true of what was reported to them, I'm talking about the JRT investigating team, way back in, I think it would be earlier 2001. If that is true, there was impropriety involved in this program as well. And of course, in the theme of the changes to the JRT report, there doesn't seem to be any traceability whatsoever in how this was removed from what was actually the comprehensive 741 pages I have in front of me, how that disappeared just a month later in terms of the final report. But in this particular context, I'm just addressing what was recorded in the draft JRT report.
And you say that the recordal of the statement that you have quoted from the draft JIT report provides a sufficient basis for the veracity of these allegations.
Yes, I think so. Well, certainly it might not be court quality, but I think we've agreed that this isn't a court, it's a commission, and the commission should be interested in all of these things, and that's why, in my own view, it's good enough and it's a reasonable issue to bring before a commission inquiry. And certainly, of course, if it is true, and of course this can be followed up. I mean, this I don't think that the purpose of this commission is personally just to stop at that. And of course, so this can be followed up. Of course, I have tried to follow this up myself, and the indications of the people who in Arms Corps or who've now left Arms Corps 15 years later is the people who will speak to me, of course, is that yes, this is indeed true, and of course, it's a kind of a tautology of why it's true, and that is the term dismissal. But if I may, it is this particular recordal is made in the draft report at page 532. It's 532, and it says at paragraph 11.5.11.4 that during consultations with witnesses it had alleged that Messrs. L. Swan and S. Sheikh had intimidated certain staff members who had been opposed to the awarding of the contract to Turbo Mecca. It's an helicopter engine contract. The staff members concerned had been threatened with dismissal if they dared to openly oppose the said two persons. I think that is short, sharp, and sweet. I'm not belaboring the point, but if this is true, and it's not my onus to prove that it's true, and hopefully it will be followed up, and those people will be brave enough to come forward, just as I'm doing now.
Chair and Commissioner Musi, you will notice that in the file 7, file 6, at page 1951, there is reference to RMY 111. That is the draft JIT report. It is contained in two supplementary files, 6A and 6B. I guess it could not be fitted in here, but for purposes of the record, the passage that the witness has referred to is found in file 6B at page 1524, and that's where that paragraph may be found. Now, Dr. Young, in terms of your statement as from paragraph 520, you introduce a discussion there of the joint investigation and the JIT report. I propose that for the flow of the evidence, we park this discussion for a while and go to the section of your statement where you deal with allegations involving Thabo Mbeki. You'll see that they start at page 148 of your statement, which is at paragraph 585. We will then, at the end, deal with the issues you refer to with regard to the JIT and the draft JIT report, once we've dealt with the issues you address as from page 585 going forward and the various witnesses.
Okay, maybe I can say at this juncture regarding the whole dealing with the JRT report. I have read the terms of reference of this commission a couple of times, and I think I've ventilated it with various minds better than mine. I cannot be 100% sure either whether it is directly relevant to the terms of reference or whether the commission even wants to hear me on this. So it is a fairly substantive chunk of text at least. If the directive is, and knowing the contents of what is that it is not relevant to the Commission's terms of reference or to its interest, then skipping to the next theme would be otherwise the proper thing to do.
Let's just park it for now. That is the suggestion I make. We will cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's just deal with what is the discussion that commences at paragraph 585.
I'm sorry, Advocate Specker. I didn't quite hear the first portion of your speech. I heard what Dr. Young said, but then from there I couldn't hear exactly what you were saying. I think his suggestion is that this draft report seems to be, it might not be of any value to us. And he wants to skip it, if I understood him. Because it's, as it said, it's a draft report. If it was changed, we don't know why was it changed. Probably it's because the authors thereof realized that in the first draft report there were mistakes. And Dr. Young suggested that maybe we should skip that. You tried to reply him, but I didn't quite hear what you were saying.
Yes, Chair, I was saying to Dr. Young that as I had suggested that we park that subject matter and deal with the rest of the evidence as I had proposed initially, and he seemed to accede to the suggestion I'd made. Right, Dr. Young, do you have paragraph 585 of your statement? It is your page 148.
Yes, I do.
If you could bear with me for one moment. For purposes of this evidence, I think it would be convenient to have in front of us file 6 continued. while we're there, we can go directly to what appears at page 2776. The discussion is picked up at Annexure RMY 123. Dr. Young, it will be your document 0165. Now, you start the discussion at page 585 of the statement by making reference to the growing confidence that Thompson CSF had with regard to the Corvette combat suite at some point. This is something that you touched on briefly a couple of days ago. Could you continue with that?
Yes, I mean, but this obviously by way of introduction, or coming to the specific interactions, which I'm pretty sure are not, are certainly not allowed by MODAC and even MD 4147. But it involves Thabo Mbeki initially in his position as the Deputy President and thereby Chairman of the Ministers' Committee. And what I think I will be showing that there seems to be a lot of interaction between a bidding party, being Thompson CSF, either directly or through various people, such as the person I mentioned, Yusuf Serti, as an interlocutor, clearly this eventually leading in, of course, to Thompson through its South African the company that has bought ADS, winning the lion's share of the Corvette combat suite. I think the documentary evidence is fairly clear and self-explanatory in that regard.
You say that the period during which this interaction took place, late 1997 to 1999, is important. Why?
Because on the 23rd of December is when the SDPs were formally initiated. It might be the 23rd of December when the RFIs, the request for information, were received, but certainly it is in September 97 that the SDPs were formally initiated as the government themselves describe as government-to-government offers. And the period up till the 8th of June 99 is when the decision-making Project Control Board formalized a selection of the combat suite and its equipment, much of it being awarded to the French company Thompson CSF and its South African subsidiary, if we may call it, ADS.
In your paragraph 587, you refer to an encrypted fax dated 28 November 1997 from one Pierre Moineau of Thompson CSF. What did this fax deal with? This is RMY 123, which is at page 2776.
Okay. In most instances, I'm referring to documents that also came out of the Shabir Sheikh trial, because of course that involved Thompson, and this whole issue involves Thompson. And in that particular case, we have French documents, and where possible, I have tried to provide the French document, the original signed document, first, and the official English translation done by Mr. M.A. Spector, sworn translator. So, of course, not speaking French. That is what I will be referring to in my evidence.
So the English translation of that document starts at page 2778 of our bundles. What is the significance of this fact?
Okay. All right. Here, I suppose, for the context, we need to look at the very first point, saying this afternoon I met with the person responsible for the shortlist, who confirmed the following points to me. There's a note against the shortlist, so they're not 100% sure. Oh, yes, well, it is fairly clear, yes. They refer to the translator's note, the French word l'atelier, which means the cutter. Anyway, I think it is now a common cause. It was testified by the person who wrote this document, I believe is Pierre Moineau, in the court that the l'atelier was Yusuf Surti, and the previous document introduces Yusuf Surti, who he is. Anyway, it would seem that, and as I've said, it would be at this stage of the process at least, it was Yusuf Surti who was acting as a interlocutor, at least as a conduit of information between the French and the Deputy President. Certainly interesting that somebody is handing a company's marketing documentation to somebody who's now formally involved in respect of the strategic defense packages. Whether or when MINCOM actually got formulated, I don't think that is relevant. But nevertheless, the interlocutor says that the Deputy President is very satisfied, particularly about the offsets offered.
Where are you reading in that document, Dr. M?
It's my page 3 of 5, so I'm looking at the English translation, the bottom paragraph starting with 4.
What is the date of the document you're reading?
English version has got the 28th of 11th, 97. And if I lose my place and go back to the top and look at the French version, right at the top, it's an encrypted fax again, clearly very sensitive, has a date the 28th of 11th, 97.
I thought the document we were referring to is the fax dated 23/9/97, RMY 123, your DT 0165.
That's the first document that I opened, but unless I'm wrong, you then referred me to the next document, and that's why I'm referring to that. But be that as it may, I apologize if I'm wrong. Both documents are relevant, but the first one is really to introduce who this Yusuf Surti is, and in the context of what he was doing as an interlocutor in respect of people in the South African government and the very top levels of Thomson CSF.
Now, the English translation of the document you're referring to is at our page 2778. Where is reference made to Yusuf Surti in this document? Which paragraph specifically?
I'm looking at page 3 of 4, and it's just above the translator's signature. It's the last paragraph.
That's the last paragraph of that document.
That's indeed correct, yes.
Anything else you wish to refer to in this document? Or can we move to the next document, our RMY 124?
No, suffice to say that this is who Yusuf Serti is and what he was doing. In fact, it says he appears to be closer to Mandela than my first. So clearly this is something that was ongoing at the top levels. Jean-Paul Perrier was the president of Thomson International.
Then we can proceed to RMY 124, which starts at 2780, your DT 0166, the English translation of which starts at 2782. That is the document you were considering earlier on.
That's correct. I think I'd done the first sentence of paragraph 4 on the end of that page. Well, carry on. It says, to my question as to whether, under present circumstances, our bid could have any chance, he said that we should submit it as soon as possible. Then, this is the most important part, then a little later on, he repeated that he obtained assurance from the Deputy President that we would be awarded the combat system and the sensors. And I think that's the important point, is this at this early stage, in September 97, Thomson was getting the assurances in this beginning stages of the formal acquisition process, and I talked about the previous evidence regarding pricing. That is their growing confidence of winning this thing. So maybe growing is the wrong word. I think it certainly grew from the previous document to now, but certainly this is a basis of the conduct which they then proceeded to negotiate their 2.6 billion rand contract.
You indicate at paragraph 588 that documentary evidence indicate that Mbeki met with Thomson CSF chairman and other officials in France during April of 1998. And for that reference, you refer us to DT 10192, our RMY 125, which starts at page 2785 with what appears to be the English translation at 2786. What passage would you like to refer to in that document?
Yeah, are we referring here to the document which is the Chairman Runk's report, Chairman Runk's visit?
That is the document.
Yes. Okay. We skipped over a introductory paragraph to this, and I think I had that open at the previous document. I'm sorry to go back, but I need to go back to the very last. No, it's not the very last. It's certainly the last on this particular page. It was page 4.5 of the previous document, the one where I say is the Deputy President gave assurance that we were awarded the combat system and the sensors. I didn't quite finish that. It's an introductory sentence to the next document to which you've just referred me.
I beg your pardon. You can deal with that.
Okay. It says under the section that says with a capital Roman 2, the information. I want to read the paragraph or sentence below that. It says, "My feeling is that our friend is certainly reliable, and I believe that if we wish, if not to sell corvettes, which was not Thomson's job, it was combat suites alone, then at least to secure the combat system and the sensors, a visit by JPP to the Deputy President should be arranged as soon as possible and should be used as an opportunity for him to meet with Jacob Zuma." Specifically, that's an introduction of them setting up, first of all, the meetings to which I come, and also this communication channel using the interlocutor Yusuf Serti.
We are now at that document at page 2786. any specific paragraph you would like to draw the Commission's attention to?
Yes. Here are some indicators as well. As I've also alluded to before, as Pierre Moineau's evidence in the Shabir Sheikh trial is working the political route, and this is documentary evidence of that. Again, this is another encrypted fax, clearly showing the sensitivity of it, involving again Pierre Moineau and very high-level people in Thompson. But again, in paragraph 3, he refers to the tailor. He's told me that N. Mandela would be there, and he's trying to get the Minister of Defence. And at the moment, he does not seem to think Thabo will be there. Be that as it may, that's not the point I'm trying to make. The problem is that the priority goes to Mandela. There's also a reference in paragraph 6. He says for JPP, who's actually the vice chairman of Thompson, this is irrespective of a visit actually by the chairman, Jean-Paul Perrier's boss, Chairman Dennis Rank. Clearly, this must be a really important meeting to meet Zuma. So it's certainly it indicates their wantings to set up meetings with Mbeki, and of course, indication directly of wanting to meet Mandela, and a meeting with Zuma as well.
Is there anything else you need to deal with in that document?
No, I don't think so.
You proceed in paragraph 589 of your statement that court records also show that on or about 17 December 1998, Mbeki met with Jean-Paul Perrier, Michel Denis, and Bernard de Bolodier of Thomson CSF of France at its head office in Paris. And he referred to your document, DT 0325, our RMY 126, which starts at page 2787. Do you have the document before you?
Yes, that is correct. I have it. It's at the very top is the indicator, the last 4 digits of that number, 4068.
What do those digits signify?
That number is just to indicate that this is I think a DSO investigation document number, and these are the documents that were that came out of the Shabir Sheikh trial.
For purposes of identification, that document is on the Thomson CSF International letterhead, and it's addressed to His Excellency Mr. Thabo Mbeki, Vice President, South Africa. It's dated December 18, 1998. What is the significance of this document?
Yes, it's not only the date of the 18th of December 98, it's dated in Paris, and it refers to as far as I can work out, my memory, a meeting the previous day. Anyway, I'm just trying to ensure that I don't read the whole document to the record if I can avoid it. But anyway, it's a thank you letter from written by a senior executive, Bernard de Bolodier, Senior Vice President of Thomson, of Thomson International, on behalf of his boss, Jean-Paul Perrier, a colleague, that thanking him for the audience granted by us during your stay, and we deeply appreciate your advice related to the present situation in South Africa. I think the same letter refers to Her Excellency Mrs. I think spelled incorrectly, Barbara Masakela. And the next document is a letter written in French to her. She was the South African ambassador in France, and that is further confirmation that the meeting did happen. I'm sure that a thank you letter to both of them wouldn't have been sent unless it happened. But clearly, at the bottom of this letter, a very important footnote kind of thing, it says, enclosed a resume of Thomson's CSF strategy in South Africa. And this is typed, as not off the fact. We are discussing at the moment with Futuristic Business Solutions Pty Limited. That's General Malloy. As you know, General Lambert Malloy became the chairman of ADS. So he was also director of Thomson. And I know from the documents, let me see whether, yes, indeed, I think that these are consecutive numbers. This is where somebody else's numbering system is greatly assistance to me. The very next serial number of 4069 it seems to be relevant here.
That's the next page, 2788.
That's correct, yes.
What is of importance that you want to draw the Commission's attention to in this document?
Well, it's of crucial importance, but secondly, the date of the 18th is important in that it is something that was attached, after the meeting. Anyway, it is in respect of, as it says itself, Thomson CSF Naval Defence Programs, and it specifically refers to Thomson, which, as we know, was only involved in the Corvette Combat Suite part. It had no direct interest, at least, in any other part of the STPs, including even the Corvette itself. It relates, as it says, the present note explains why the various interests of SAN and RSA government will be protected through ADS under the umbrella of Thomson CSF. I don't think I need to go through all of this, but I think it's a fairly comprehensive document that, in my review of it, cannot mean anything other than their discussions with Thabo Mbeki were nothing else to do with the strategic defence packages at this stage, and of the 17th of December 1998, which is a month after the preferred suppliers have been selected. So at this stage, here we have the chairman of Mincom interacting with what is a subcontract at this stage. That in itself is interesting. The very final paragraph here is, or point is 3, conclusion. And it says, and obviously this was, whether or not it was discussed the day before, that I can't say, but at least it was put to the day after in the context of the discussions. And it says, by selecting ADS for the supply of the corvettes and submarine combat systems, South African Navy will strongly help the future development of this company in terms of high-level education and training, employment and technological capitalization for the whole country. But at least it does refer to combat systems, and both, as I've tried to indicate before, both for the corvettes and the submarines.
Chair, I think the recent tenor of evidence seems to violate the ruling that was made. The witness is trying to interpret a document without, in the first place, identifying the author and trying to connect it with the previous document about matters which he has absolutely no personal knowledge. It's really our objection of the tenure that this evidence is taking at this stage?
Chair, the witness has identified this document as a document taken out of the bundles of documents in a trial involving Thompson CSF, a player in the combat suite, and the witness has, in fact, at least mentioned whether it was by design or fortuitously that the series of the numbering was of assistance to make sure that there is no doubt that the three, or that entire document relates to the same matter. You will notice that the document, which starts at page 2787, makes reference to the program or the resume of Thompson CSF and the Thompson CSF strategy in South Africa, and there can be no doubt that this entire annexure relates to the same transaction. I would submit with respect that the objection, to the extent that it seeks to suggest that there is, or the witness has not demonstrated any connection between the first document at 2787 and the last 2 pages of that annexure, the objection is misplaced. It is indeed correct the witness is not the author of this document, and perhaps he has no personal knowledge of, but the document speaks for itself.
Advocate Sibeko, I agree with you, the document speaks for itself. Now, what is the purpose of him reading the document to us, trying to explain to us what the document means? Once he's referred us to this document, I think that should be good enough. He's not the author of that document, and I'm sure we don't need his assistance to read the document. He has made the documents available to us. Let's move on. He doesn't have to read in details what this paragraph means if you connect it with another paragraph, and therefore you come to this meaning. We don't need that. Once he's referred us to this document, they are in front of us. We'll be in a position to read them. I think that is where the objection is valid. We are going back to what we have been trying to resolve for the rest of this week. He has referred us to the document. The documents are here. We'll read them. Maybe try and make sure that you avoid what we've been trying to avoid of the whole of this week.
Indeed, Chair, we are trying, but in the course of seeking clarity as to how we deal with these documents, it was our understanding that once we refer to documents and we say the witness identifies the point he seeks to elicit out of the document, he could do so by referring to specific paragraphs. And it was my understanding that this is what the witness was doing.
I agree with you, this is what we have agreed, but I'm not sure whether I agree with you that this is what the witness is doing. He has been reading very extensively from these documents. We do have the documents in front of us. We can be in a position to read them at our own time.
We shall try to stick to the ruling or the terms of the ruling you have made. Please be mindful, Dr. Young, when you deal with the documents, to the terms of the ruling once again.
Sorry, with all respect, I do need to state at this point, I prepared my witness statement and my evidence in a different way. I've given evidence many times in court. I've never been confronted by a situation like this. I think my obligation here to the Commission, to the public, to everybody, is to give my best evidence. I cannot give my best evidence if I cannot keep my train of thought. If I'd known this before, by looking at other rulings, whatever, which I don't think were made, then I might have prepared my witness statement differently. But I think, genuinely speaking, it is unfair on me to expect me to be able to keep my train of thought by just saying, here is the relevant document, here's the relevant point. I do need to keep a train of thought. I think I'm giving reasonable evidence, but I do need, in fact, my own interpretation of the discussions after the ruling were that there was some flexibility, is that I could address the important point. And I'm certainly, if I may say so, I don't want to be argumentative, I'm certainly not reading out entire 48-page documents, but I'm trying to limit myself to what is important, what's in the public interest, and to keep my train of thought going.
Advocate Sibeko, I'm sure you can tell Dr. Young that that's not what I've said. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that he must try and stick to the ruling that we made. I'm not saying that he's reading the entire documents. And I'm not saying that he's not allowed to read any portions of the document that he's referring to. I'm sure if he tries, he can do better than what he's doing now.
Sorry, may I just ask you to repeat that last thing? That am I permitted to read the relevant parts, if they're not too long?
You are permitted to read the relevant parts, and what I'm saying is that I'm sure we can try to, better than this, to limit the extent to which we read. I'm not saying that we shouldn't read them at all.
Okay, unfortunately, I have to say I'll have to treat this as a bit of a learning experience. I'm trying to get better, but I am doing the best that I can.
Yes, Dr. Young, I think we were just about to start dealing with your DT 0326, our RMY 127, where you mention that this is in support of your assertion at 589 of your statement that court records show further meetings that Mr. Thabo Mbeki had with officials of Thompson CSF.
Yes, indeed, that's correct. But as importantly, the letter's the same date. I do know that it's written in French, and I'm looking at the English version of it. But I think we date the meeting to the 17th, 17th of December, the previous day, and it also refers in the third paragraph down. It seems that the letter was handed to her for further handing on to Mr. Mbeki, and it also refers to the upcoming planned meetings to South Africa, which also seem to indicate that they met Thabo Mbeki again. There seems to be indications of at least an intention in multiple instances. I cannot say for 100% sure. I don't think that these were minuted meetings in terms of MODAC, but I can only look at the documents that I have in front of me. But again, the last sentence, or at least the last part of the sentence, puts the thing in context without necessarily relying on the footnote of the letter to Mr. Mbeki or the consecutive numbering of the documents, but it says, if this is possible, and we hope that time to be able to discuss the subject of black empowerment in our ADS JV with him. Now, unfortunately, in the simple, what is in black and white for us, the ADS JV can mean nothing other than, firstly, the Corvette Combat Suite, and nothing other than the strategic defense packages.
I don't seem to quite understand the link between this letter dated the 18th of December, and I see in your statement you speak of the 17th, but the letter is dated the 18th of December, 98. I can't find the connection between this letter and the document that follows.
Look at what I understood is both letters are dated the 18th, and they refer to a meeting. They are thanking somebody for the meeting, so obviously the letter is written after the meeting. The letter to Barbara Masekela is thanking her for the meeting of the previous day, or certainly with the previous date of the 17th. I don't think there's any other interpretation that's reasonable at this stage, is that the meeting didn't occur on the 17th. Certainly that is my conclusion. I think that's a reasonable and valid conclusion to make. Correct question correctly, adequately.
I follow you, that you draw that conclusion, but this document that follows doesn't seem to be a minute of meetings. It seems to be a document for discussion, and I'm not sure by whom.
May I request to inquire what document, when you say the Commissioner Musi, the following document?
The one that's annexed to Annexure RMY 126, the one that follows immediately on 2788.
Commissioner Musi, perhaps if I may assist. The witness has already pointed out, if you have regard to what is in page 2787, the second last line, just below the signature, says, enclosed a resume of Thomson CSF strategy in Republic of South Africa. Now, the next page, which is sequential to the DSO numbering at the top right-hand corner, has Thomson CSF/Naval Programs, and it mentions there that the present note explains why the various interests of SAN and RSA government will be protected through ADS under the umbrella of Thomson CSF, and it sets out under paragraph 1, general strategy. In the next page, paragraph 2, present naval program, and paragraph 3, conclusion. That appears to be the resume referred to on the first page of that letter.
I agree with that, but does it mean that it reflects a meeting between any particular parties? Or was it a discussion document emanating from Thomson?
Commissioner, it is a resume. It does not refer to a discussion document. It is the resume that is annexed to RMY, the page 2787 of that annexure.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and with some reluctance, I understand that we're referring to this document because it's supposed to come from litigation involving the then Thomson CSF. I don't think that that is the position. I have since yesterday at 11 a.m. sat on my hands until my fingers and that part of my body which was sitting on my fingers were numb. But I think that this demonstrates aptly the dangerous path of evidence or information being led in this way. And I simply wanted to record that we will argue that none of this is anything other than information, certainly not evidence.
Advocate Sibeko.
With respect, Chair, I would submit that what the point that is brought to the attention of the Commission, I'm not certain whether it is an objection per se, but to the extent that it is sought to be suggested that these documents do not come from or are not evidence before the Commission or do not constitute evidence elsewhere. I believe that is a matter that could be raised under cross-examination to allow the witness to deal with such matter.
Okay, I think, Speaker, let's continue. The question of the admissibility of these documents can be dealt with at a later stage. And then, Advocate Speaker, maybe if Dr. Young can avoid trying to draw conclusions from these documents. Unless if he feels that, it's quite necessary for him to draw conclusions. Because I think this is part of the problem, where he's going to read a document, get his own understanding, and try and tell us what that document means. He can read them, but then wherever it's possible, let him try and avoid drawing conclusions.
Sorry, Mr. Chairperson, I don't know if this will help, but it may help if the evidence leaders were to indicate to us whether the purpose of bringing these documents to your attention is to prove the truthfulness of the contents of it, or if it is simply to place them before you and say these documents exist and this is what they say, and then you can then draw your own conclusions from them. Because if they want to at the end of the day argue that the contents of this document are true and correct, then that may require then different considerations to how they treat these documents. And then it will be a question of whether or not this witness can testify about the truth of the contents of it. If he can't, they must simply then place these documents before you, and then they can argue what they want to argue at the end of the day.
Thank you. Advocate Swagger.
Chair, it does appear as if we need to revisit the submissions that we made previously. This process, being inquisitorial, it seeks to collect information relating to allegations of the subject matter of the terms of reference. These documents are being placed before you to demonstrate the existence thereof. The witness, not being the author of the documents, cannot attest to the truthfulness of the documents, and he does not seek to attest to the truthfulness of the documents simply to say these are the documents that perhaps seek to demonstrate the existence of a particular fact. The Commission then, in its fact-finding process, will deal with the contents of the documents at the fullness of time and make its findings regarding the truthfulness of the documents and so forth. So it is not the intention of this witness, as I understand it, and it is not the purpose of this exercise to say that this witness cannot give evidence on the truthfulness of the contents of these documents. And in fact, the ruling says so indeed, as I understand it. But all that is sought to be done through this exercise is to place information before the Commission, which the Commission is gathering in order to make certain findings.
I agree with you. Now, do you suggest that we take a tea adjournment now?
I'm indebted to the Chair.
Then it will go on until 6 o'clock again today, or should we break earlier?
We can try 6, Chair.
We can try 6.
Yes.
Thank you. I think let's come back at about 10 to 4.